All right, today we're jumping into a really fantastic story. It's an adaptation of an ancient folktale from Asia, a really powerful one called The Emperor's Seeds. So let's just imagine for a second. You're an emperor, you're wise, you're respected, but your time is running out. How in the world do you find the right person to take over? This was the exact problem a ruler faced a long, long time ago. So the story goes, way back in a forgotten dynasty, there was an emperor who was getting very, very old. And even though his body was starting to fail him, his mind was still as sharp as a tiger's claws. His wisdom was, the pride of the entire empire. You can really get a picture of just how old he was. His legs would creak when he walked. His hair was as pale as a piece of paper. And his breath, it was said to rustle just like the wind blowing through a tree. Every sound was a little reminder that time was slipping away. But here's the thing. He had this one huge worry, a critical problem really. He had no children, no sons, no daughters, which meant there was no heir to take over the empire. And this wasn't just his problem. It was something that worried all of his people. And he spent so much time thinking about what to do. I mean, he thought about it for so long that his magnificent white beard actually grew an entire inch. He thought about it while a baby hawk hatched from its egg and learned how to fly. An entire monsoon season came and went, and still, he waited for the perfect idea. He was definitely not rushing this. And then, finally, after all that time, it hit him. He had it, the perfect test. So he sent out his scholars and generals with a single command: find the 20 most promising children in the entire land. They brought them all back to the palace, boys and girls, and you can bet they were all wondering, why are we here? The emperor stood before all of them and just laid it all out on the line. He said, I am old and I won't live forever. I need a new emperor to carry on in my place, and one of you is going to be that new emperor. Can you just imagine the shock waves that went through that room? And the test itself? Well, it sounded pretty simple. Each of the children was given a tiny golden box, and inside, just a pinch of orchid seed. The instructions were clear. Go home, plant the seed, take great care of it, and then on the first day of winter, come back with your best flower. And with that, he made his final declaration. Thus he said, shall I choose the next emperor? The challenge was on. Okay, so among these 20 kids, there was one boy named Aziz. And he was the youngest one there, and also the poorest. See, while some of the other children had these big, beautiful walled gardens, Aziz, well, he just had this little patch of dirt that he'd managed to keep clear from the chickens. And Aziz, he poured everything he had into this. He planted his seed so carefully. He watered it every day. He even built a tiny little stone wall around it to keep the chickens away. He would even sing to his seed, hoping maybe his voice would help it grow. He was so patient, so attentive. But as spring turned to summer and summer turned to autumn, nothing, absolutely nothing grew.
So when the first day of winter finally rolled around, Aziz just stared at his empty clay pot, and he just felt miserable. He was sure he had failed. He thought to himself, I'll never be anything.
So, with a heavy heart, he picked up his empty pot and started the long walk to the palace. On his way, though, he walked right past this patch of wild orchids, and they were just breathtaking, this vibrant, beautiful purple. And honestly, seeing them just made him feel even worse. And right then and there, a dark thought crept into his mind. What if he just took one of these perfect flowers? He could just stick it in his pot, and who would ever know? He could still have a chance to be emperor. He glanced left, he glanced right, not a soul in sight. He reached out, and just as his fingers brushed against the stem of one of the flowers, he stopped. He froze. He realized what he was about to do. This was cheating, and he knew, deep down, that if he couldn't grow a flower from the emperor's own seeds, then he didn't deserve to rule. So he just let his hand fall. He took a deep breath and kept walking to the palace. When he got there, he was led into the throne room, and wow, it was packed with thousands of people. He had to stand in line with all the other kids, just clutching his empty pot, his face just burning red with embarrassment. And you should have seen the other kids. The contrast was just incredible. 19 of them had these pots filled with the most magnificent orchids you could ever imagine, the kind of beautiful that could bring a tear to your eye. And then there was Aziz's pot, the 20th one, the only one that was completely, totally empty. Just then, the emperor walked in.
He looked over all the children's flowers, and his eyes stopped right on Aziz's empty pot. Then he turned to the massive crowd and said, "And now I shall choose the new emperor. But first, I need to tell you all the true nature of this test. You could have heard a pin drop."
And he went on to explain that everyone thought they'd been given healthy, normal seeds. But in reality, the emperor announced, the seeds had been boiled. They were sterile. They would never have grown, no matter what you did to them.
He went on telling the crowd what the most important quality in an emperor really is. An emperor needs integrity, he said. That means telling the truth, even when it's hard. It means doing what's right, even when nobody is looking. That is moral strength. And suddenly you could see 19 children just staring at the floor, totally ashamed. And then the emperor turned and looked right at Aziz. "You," he said, "are the only one who did not cheat. You are the only one who had the courage to come before me with an empty pot. And you, Aziz, will be our next emperor."
Well, the crowd just erupted. They were chanting Aziz's name as they lifted him up onto their shoulders. And that's why, all these many years later, people all over the world still tell the tale of Aziz, the emperor's seeds, and the boy who became a ruler with nothing more than an empty pot.